My wife asked me for a divorce after I found her secretly transferring $200, $0 to her ex, only to discover she'd forged my signature, and the real reason was something even darker involving our inheritance and our property. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife turned out to be a complete manipulative liar and cheat. Honestly, everything was fine, or so I thought, until the day I stumbled across something that shattered my world. The craziest part, it all started with a simple suspicion that slowly snowballed into a full-blown nightmare, and I had been married for about 7 years. We built a decent life together, good jobs, a nice house, a dog we adored. I was always the cautious type, careful with money, trusting implicitly. She was the kind of girl everyone, beautiful, confident, sharp-tongued when she needed to be, but loving and caring underneath. Or so I thought. I should have known something was off when she started acting distant a few months ago. Little things at first. She'd come home late, say she was working late or meeting up with friends, but I'd catch her sneaking her phone away when I entered the room. Small lies, minor enough to brush off. Then the big one hit me like a punch in the gut. It was a quiet Thursday evening when I decided to check our joint bank account. I'd always been meticulous about our finances, and I'd noticed some odd transactions a week earlier, large withdrawals I didn't recognize. I figured it was just a mistake or maybe a bank error, but I wanted to see the details. What I found made my blood run cold. There was a transfer of $200, $0 to an account I'd never seen before. It was done secretly, late at night, and the transfer was authorized from s phone. That alone was enough to set off alarms, but what really threw me was the signature on the transfer request. It looked like my signature, exactly my handwriting. Only I never authorized that transfer. I'd never even given her access to do anything like that. The account was in her name, but I was the one who handled our finances, and I always kept everything transparent. This was a clear forgery. I couldn't believe it. My mind was racing. Was she stealing from us? Was she planning to run away with that money? But then I remembered something else, her weird behavior lately. The way she'd been more secretive, the late nights, the lies about where she was. It all clicked into place. She'd been planning something, and that money was just the tip of the iceberg. The next day I confronted her. I laid out what I'd found, showed her the bank statement, the forged signature. Her face twisted into a smirk like she was amused by my shock. "Oh, that," she said, brushing it off like it was nothing. "It's just an investment. You know I've been talking about wanting to buy that new house in the city. I was just trying to get us a better future." But her eyes darted away, and I could see the guilt behind her smile. She was lying. She'd been lying about everything. When I pressed her further, she got bitchy fast, started yelling, calling me paranoid, accusing me of not trusting her. "You're just jealous," she snapped. "You're always accusing me of stuff like I'm cheating on you or something. Maybe I should find someone who actually appreciates me." That cut deeper than I expected. I knew she was trying to turn it around, make me feel guilty for catching her, but I wasn't buying it. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to her lies, her anger, and the fact that she'd forged my signature. I felt a mix of betrayal, anger, and sadness. How could she do this? What was she hiding? Was this just about the money, or was there something darker behind it? I knew I had to dig deeper, find out what she was up to, and figure out what to do next. The trust I once had in her was gone, replaced by a gnawing suspicion that this was just the beginning of something much worse. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about a shady investment or some reckless financial move. No, was capable of much darker things. The forgery, the secret transfer, those weren't isolated incidents. It was like peeling back layers of a lie, and each layer revealed something more sinister. I started digging into her phone, her emails, her social media accounts, anything that could give me a clue about what she was really up to. One night I finally found it. A string of messages between her and her ex, Jason. They'd been talking for months, maybe longer. The conversations weren't just about old memories or casual catch-ups. They were flirtatious, full of innuendos, and sometimes downright explicit. She was cheating on me, I was sure of it. The worst part, she told me she was just friends with him, that he was just an ex, nothing more. But these messages painted a completely different picture. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't breathe. How could she do this to me? After everything we'd been through, after building a life together, she was sneaking around, lying to my face. I kept thinking about how she'd always been bitchy when I caught her in little lies before, saying I was paranoid, accusing me of not trusting her. Now I knew the truth. She'd been lying to my face about everything, including the affair. I decided I had to confront her again, this time with everything I'd found. I waited until she came home from work, her heels clicking loudly on the hardwood floor. I was sitting in the living room, phone in hand, ready to lay it all out. When she saw me, her face twisted into a sneer. "What are you doing, looking at my stuff?" she asked, voice sharp. I didn't hold back. I showed her the messages, the bank transfer, the forged signature. Her eyes widened for a moment, then she recovered her composure. "You're crazy," she spat. "You're just jealous because I don't want to be with someone who doesn't trust me. Maybe I should leave, see how you handle that." I was furious. I told her I knew about the affair, about the money, about everything. Her face turned red, then pale. She tried to deny it all, but her voice kept cracking. The lies she spun, the excuses she made, they all sounded so hollow. I could see through her. She was a master manipulator, but not good enough to fool me anymore. That confrontation didn't go well. She stormed out, calling me names, accusing me of being controlling and paranoid. She said I was overreacting, that I was just jealous and insecure, but I knew the truth. She was cheating, stealing, and lying, and I was done trusting her. I didn't want to be her fool anymore. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry all at once. The love I once had for her was turning into a bitter, burning rage. I knew I had to decide what to do next, but I also knew that this wasn't going to end with just a simple breakup. She crossed a line, and I was going to make her regret it. After that night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her smirk, her lies, the way she tried to manipulate me. The betrayal was one thing, but the fact that she'd forged my signature, stolen that money, and lied about her affair, it felt like she'd taken a dagger straight into my chest. I had to act, but I wasn't exactly sure what my next move was. All I knew was that I couldn't keep going on like this, trusting someone who had been so fundamentally dishonest. The next morning, I decided to get a lawyer. I wanted to know my rights, what I could do about the money, and how to protect what was mine, our house, our inheritance, everything we'd worked for. When I told the lawyer everything, he was pretty straightforward. Forgery was a serious crime, and the fact that she transferred a large sum of money without my permission was a red flag. He advised me to freeze our joint accounts and start gathering evidence, screenshots, bank statements, any messages she might have sent. He also warned me about the possibility of her trying to hide or move assets, so I needed to act fast. While I was busy with the legal side, I also started digging into her past. I remembered her always talking about her inheritance, how her family was well off, and she'd received a sizable chunk of money when her parents died. I'd never paid much attention to the details, but now I was curious. I found out that her inheritance was tied up in a trust, and that there were restrictions on how she could access it. I also learned she'd been secretly talking to a lawyer about claiming her inheritance early, something she never mentioned before. The more I uncovered, the more I realized she was hiding something huge. Meanwhile, his attitude was getting bitchier by the day. She'd call me paranoid, accuse me of spying on her, and say I was just trying to control her. But I wasn't about to let her gaslight me. I had proof now, her lies, her cheating, her forged signature, and I was ready to confront her again. I wanted her to know I wasn't going to be played anymore. One afternoon, she came home from work, her face tense. She tried to act normal, but I could see the tension in her eyes. I told her I knew everything about the affair, the money, the forgery, her plans to claim her inheritance. Her face went pale for a second, then she threw up her hands and started yelling. "You don't understand. This is all a misunderstanding. I was just talking to Jason because I was lonely. The money, it's for us, for our future. You're overreacting. This is all your fault for not trusting me." I didn't buy her lies anymore. I told her I was done playing her games. I said I was going to get a divorce, take what's rightfully mine, and make sure she didn't get away with any more of her manipulations. She screamed at me, called me controlling and insecure, but I didn't care. I knew I needed to protect myself. And what was left of my sanity? That day I started making plans. I contacted a divorce lawyer, started the process. I also hired a private investigator to follow her and find out exactly what she was up to with her inheritance and her ex. The worst part, I knew this was only the beginning. There was something darker behind her actions, something I hadn't fully uncovered yet. But I was determined to get to the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. I'd been betrayed in ways I never imagined, and now I was ready to fight back. Over the next few days, everything started to feel like a whirlwind. I was juggling legal consultations, the private investigator's reports, and trying to keep my head clear amid the chaos. His attitude only got worse, more bitchy, more confrontational. She'd scream at me about trust and loyalty, but I knew better now. Trust was gone. She lied too many times, crossed too many lines. All I cared about was protecting what was mine and making sure she didn't get away with her schemes. The investigator came through with some shocking intel. Turns out, had been meeting with her lawyer in secret, trying to get her inheritance early, just like I'd suspected. She'd also been making secret deposits into an offshore account, money I didn't know about. The worst part, the account was in her ex Jason's name. She'd been planning to run, possibly with Jason, once she got her hands on the inheritance. The pieces were falling into place and I was furious. I decided to confront her directly again, but this time I had more leverage. I sat her down one evening, calm but firm. I told her I knew about her plans, about the offshore account, about her cheating. Her face twisted with anger, but I saw a flicker of fear behind her eyes. She tried to deny everything, claiming I was paranoid, that I was making things up. But I had proof, screenshots, bank statements, the private investigator's report. I told her I was done being naive, done being manipulated. She started crying then, big fake tears, the kind she'd used before when she wanted to guilt trip me. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "I was just trying to secure our future. Jason's been helping me because I don't trust the lawyers we have. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you, but I feel trapped." That was the classic line, except I didn't believe her anymore. I saw through her crocodile tears. This was just her way of spinning the story to make herself look innocent. I told her lies were over, that I was calling the lawyer, filing for divorce, and taking everything that was legally mine. I also warned her that if she tried to hide or move any more assets, I'd go after her for fraud and theft. Her reaction was a mixture of anger and desperation. She yelled, called me names, and said I was ruining everything because I didn't trust her. But I knew the truth now. She had been lying from the start, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That night, I sat alone in my room, feeling a strange mix of relief and dread. For all her bitchy attitude and manipulations, I knew I was finally taking control of the situation. I'd been naive, trusting her for too long. But now I was preparing to fight for what was rightfully mine, my property, my inheritance, my dignity. I also realized that the emotional damage she'd done was worse than any financial loss. I'd lost my partner, my trust, and a part of myself, but I was determined not to let her destroy me completely. The end of the road was near, and I was ready to see it through, no matter how ugly it got. The days that followed were a blur of legal meetings, gathering evidence, and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. I stayed up nights reviewing everything I'd collected, bank statements, messages, the investigators' reports, and mapping out my next moves. His bitchy attitude didn't fade. If anything, it intensified. She'd call me every name in the book, accuse me of trying to control her, accuse me of being paranoid. But I didn't care anymore. I had enough proof to back up my claims, and I was ready to go all in. One afternoon, I finally decided I'd had enough of her manipulations. I called her into the living room, sat her down, and laid everything out clearly. I told her I knew about her plans to claim her inheritance early, that I knew about the offshore account, and that I had all the evidence to prove her lies. Her face went pale, then flushed. She started yelling, denying everything, calling me a jealous, insecure idiot who was just trying to ruin her. I cut her off. "I've had enough. I've been patient, I've been naive, but I'm done. I'm filing for divorce. I want my fair share of what's ours, and I want you to be honest about everything else, your affair, your schemes, the money you stole. I told her I was sick of her lies, sick of her manipulating me, and that I was going to take everything she tried to hide. Her response: more yelling, more accusations, and a lot of bitchy sneers. She called me controlling, said I was overreacting, and that I was just jealous because she was better than me. But I wasn't about to let her spin this anymore. I'd already made up my mind. I had the lawyer on speed dial, and I knew exactly how to proceed. I told her I was going to take her to court if she tried to hide or transfer more assets. I also threatened to report her for forgery and theft. Her eyes flashed with anger, but I saw a flicker of fear too. She knew. I was serious. That night I couldn't sleep again. The weight of everything hit me hard. I'd lost trust, yes, but I'd also lost part of my peace of mind. It hurt to think that the woman I loved and trusted had been lying and cheating behind my back. But I also felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in months, I felt like I was taking control of my life. I was going to fight for what was mine, my property, my inheritance, my dignity. And I was finally done with the manipulative, bitchy liar who had almost destroyed everything I worked so hard for. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I knew I had to see it through. I owed myself that much. The court date finally arrived, and I was prepared. I had all my evidence organized: bank statements, screenshots, the investigator's report, everything pointing to her lies, her affair, her theft. I knew would try to spin it her way, but I was ready. When the judge asked about the assets, I laid it all out plainly. Her forgery, the secret offshore account, the illicit transfer of funds, her ongoing affair with Jason, everything. I saw her try to maintain her bitchy composure, but the cracks were showing. She knew she'd been caught, and there was nothing she could do to spin her way out of it anymore. The judge was stern. She ordered to return the stolen money and to cease all her attempts to claim her inheritance prematurely. She also awarded me full custody of the house and a fair share of the assets, considering her deception. I felt a strange mixture of relief and bitter victory. I'd won legally, but the emotional damage was still there. I'd been betrayed in ways I never thought possible, and honestly, I didn't know if I'd ever fully recover from that. After the court proceedings, I moved out of the house. I couldn't bear to live under the same roof with someone so manipulative and dishonest. I found a small apartment nearby, one that I could call my own. I didn't want to keep anything that reminded me of her. No pictures, no mementos, just a fresh start. I also cut all contact with, blocking her number and social media. She tried to reach out a few times, but I refused to listen. I knew she'd only try to manipulate me again if I let her. Looking back, I realize how blind I was to her true nature. I trusted her, believed in the life we built, and I got betrayed in the worst way. It's a lesson I'll carry with me forever. Never ignore the small signs of betrayal and always protect what's yours. Trust is fragile, and when it's broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But I also learned that even after the deepest betrayals, you can pick yourself up and start over. You just have to be willing to face the truth, no matter how ugly it is. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional fallout, and I'm slowly learning to trust again, this time more carefully. I won't let her or anyone else manipulate me like that again. I hope my story serves as a warning. Beware of the charming ones who hide a darker side. Keep your guard up, protect your assets, and always trust your instincts. Because once trust is broken, it's a long road back. But I'm on that road now, and I know I'll get to the other side stronger than ever.